What financial security actually means. Today, for most of our lives, financial security felt like something simple, almost obvious, as if it were a clear destination that everyone eventually reached if they just followed the rules long enough. We were told that being careful was enough, that avoiding mistakes mattered more than taking chances, and that responsibility, practiced consistently over time, would naturally turn into safety. So we studied, we worked, we saved what we could, and we learned to stay away from anything that felt uncertain or uncomfortable, trusting that one day we would wake up and feel secure without having to question it. But instead of that calm certainty arriving, something else quietly took its place. People who had done everything right still felt uneasy. People with stable incomes still felt one unexpected problem away from stress. And people who followed every rule began wondering, usually in silence, why financial security felt so fragile when it was supposed to feel solid, not as a loud realization, but as a thought that appeared late at night, when the day was over and no one else was listening. And slowly, almost reluctantly, a different question began to form. What if financial security doesn't mean what we were taught it means anymore? Daniel never considered himself someone who needed more. He wasn't chasing promotions or dreaming of starting something new, because to him, ambition felt risky, and risk felt unnecessary when stability was already within reach. For more than a decade, he stayed with the same company, building a reputation for being reliable, adaptable, and easy to work with, believing that consistency and loyalty were the safest investments a person could make. His paycheck arrived on time every month. His routine rarely changed, and his future, at least in his mind, followed a straight and predictable line forward. When friends talked about changing careers or exploring new opportunities, Daniel listened politely, but inside he felt relieved that he didn't need to make those choices, because staying put felt like proof that he had figured life out. That sense of certainty lasted until it didn't. The message that changed everything didn't arrive dramatically. It came quietly, wrapped in professional language about restructuring and efficiency, carefully avoiding any mention of personal failure. Daniel wasn't being let go because he had done something wrong. He was being let go because the world had moved in a direction his role no longer fit. In the weeks that followed, the loss of income was stressful, but it wasn't the hardest part. What truly unsettled him was realizing how much of his identity and sense of safety had been built around a single assumption: that doing things the right way would protect him from having to start over. For the first time, Daniel understood that what he had built wasn't financial security at all, but a form of dependence that only felt safe as long as nothing changed. And when change finally arrived, it took that feeling of safety with it. Lena's relationship with money had always been shaped by fear, even before she had the words to describe it. Growing up, she watched her parents manage every expense with caution, constantly calculating, constantly worried, and she promised herself that when she became an adult, she would never live with that same sense of uncertainty. She became disciplined early on, choosing stability over possibility and safety over growth, believing that avoiding risk was the smartest way to protect her future. For years, that approach seemed to work. Her savings slowly increased, her life stayed orderly, and from the outside, she appeared responsible and secure, exactly the kind of person financial advice was written for. But as time passed, the world around her became more expensive, more unpredictable, and more demanding, while her sense of security failed to grow at the same pace. What troubled her wasn't the fear of losing money, but the growing realization that despite doing everything she was supposed to do, she felt increasingly unprepared for change. Opportunities appeared, and she hesitated. New paths became visible, and she felt unsure whether she was allowed to take them. It wasn't until someone asked her a simple, unexpected question: if everything changed tomorrow, what would you still have? That her thinking began to shift. The answer wasn't her savings or her job title. It was her ability to learn, to adapt, and to rebuild. And in that moment, Lena understood something that no financial rule had ever taught her. Real security doesn't come from avoiding loss, but from knowing that you can recover, adjust, and move forward even when things don't go as planned. Daniel and Lena never met. They lived in different places, made different choices, and believed they were protecting themselves in different ways. Yet both of them were chasing the same idea. A version of financial security that promised peace as long as nothing changed. Daniel believed safety came from loyalty, routine, and predictability, trusting that if he stayed long enough and worked hard enough, the system would take care of him in return. Lena believed safety came from control, discipline, and caution, trusting that if she avoided mistakes, she could avoid pain. Neither of them was irresponsible. Neither of them was naive. They were simply following a definition of security that belonged to a slower world. And when that definition quietly stopped working, the discomfort they felt wasn't failure. It was reality catching up. For decades, security was something external. It lived in long-term jobs, predictable careers, stable costs, and systems that rewarded patience over adaptability. You could build a life by choosing one direction and staying there. Today, that world no longer exists. Technology reshapes industries faster than people can retrain. Economic shifts arrive without warning. The cost of living changes in ways that planning alone can't fully control. In a world like this, standing still doesn't feel safe anymore, even when you're doing everything right. That's why so many people feel anxious despite being responsible. Not because they lack discipline, but because discipline alone no longer guarantees security. What financial security actually means today? Financial security today is not about protecting a fixed life. It's about building the ability to respond when life moves. It means understanding that a job is not an identity and income is not a promise. It means knowing that savings are important, but skills, adaptability, and awareness are what allow you to rebuild when circumstances change. Security today is not avoiding risk at all costs. It's understanding risk well enough that fear no longer controls your decisions. It's knowing that if one chapter ends, you are still capable of writing the next one. Many people are still trying to preserve a version of safety that no longer exists. They save more, but learn less. They work harder, but remain dependent on systems they don't control. They hope stability will return instead of preparing for continuous change. Not because they're lazy, not because they're unaware, but because no one told them that security is no longer a destination. It's a skill you develop over time, a skill you update as the world evolves, a skill that grows stronger the more you understand how money, work, and value truly function today. The difficult truth is that there is no perfectly safe path anymore. But the liberating truth is that you don't need one. You don't need a world that never changes. You need the ability to change with it. When Daniel stopped chasing stability and started building transferable skills, his fear slowly turned into confidence. When Lena stopped trying to avoid uncertainty and began investing in her ability to create value, her anxiety softened into clarity. Not because they became reckless, but because they finally understood that the greatest risk today is staying unprepared for change. Financial security today isn't about standing still long enough to feel safe. It's about staying capable enough to move when you need to. Capable of learning. Capable of adapting. Capable of starting again without losing your sense of self. Money will always fluctuate. Jobs will evolve. Systems will change. But your ability to navigate uncertainty calmly, consciously, and intentionally is what lasts. If this story felt familiar, if it put words to a feeling you've been carrying quietly, then you're not behind. You're becoming aware, and awareness is where real security begins. At some point, everyone realizes this quietly. Financial security was never meant to feel like certainty. It was never meant to mean that nothing would change. Real security feels different. It feels like knowing that even if something ends, a job, an income, a plan, you are not ending with it. It feels like trusting your ability to learn, adjust, and rebuild when life doesn't follow the script you were given. This doesn't mean the lessons from our parents were wrong. Discipline still matters. Saving still matters. Responsibility still matters. Those values are still the foundation. But the world moves faster now. And when the world changes faster, our thinking has to evolve faster too. Not to abandon stability, but to redefine it. Not to reject the past, but to build on it. If you've been feeling uneasy about money lately, that feeling isn't weakness. It's awareness. It's your mind recognizing that the old definition no longer fits, and that a new one is waiting to be understood. Real financial security today isn't about standing still long enough to feel safe. It's about staying capable enough to move forward when change arrives. And it always does. If this story helped you see your own situation more clearly, stay with this channel. Subscribe, not for shortcuts or guarantees, but for honest conversations about money, mindset, and navigating a world that refuses to slow down. Your future isn't broken. It isn't behind. It's still unfolding. And real security begins the moment you realize that you're capable of adapting to whatever comes next.